Hey there, and welcome to this episode of Tales from the Podcast. So, pretty clear to notice that right from the get-go, it looks a little bit different. Just to let everybody know, our pal Uncle Ron is going to be taking I really don't have a time limit on it, so I guess they say an indefinite hiatus at this moment for personal reasons. He just has a lot of things going on that he needs to work on, and I think he'll be back after that. When that'll be, I'm not 100% sure, but you'll know as soon as I know, to say the least. So, anyways, this is going to be a pretty fucking fun episode. I'm really excited about this one. It's definitely one of the I guess more entertaining episodes from one of the later seasons, which is pretty cool considering, you get so much excitement so early on. But anyways, well, I guess before I introduce the guest, David's chiming in already. The title of this episode sounds a lot like the lyrics from that hit song "America the Beautiful." Yeah, except I don't think it's even inspired by that in the least bit. But anyways, let me go ahead and introduce the guest for this episode, Josh. And excuse me for saying this, and I know we were just chatting a little bit beforehand, and I really wanted to actually talk about this. I didn't know the proper way how to pronounce your last name, man.
It's all good. So I just for shits and giggles for a second here. So my favorites are when I was a kid, made fun of. Pants to the Rescue is the common one. Pants is what some people call me. Totally can see that, I'm sure.
Well, if I see Pants, I'm always thinking about Joey Pants.
Yeah. I've had that nickname myself a couple times. So but my personal favorite for my last name was there was a telephone company called Pantalleresco. I just phonetically just dug that. It was just like, okay, that's at least creative. I'll give you that.
Right.
But the proper way to spell my last name is Joshua Pantalleresco.
Pantalleresco. Fair enough. It's funny because I was asking Ron earlier, and I think that was pretty close to what I said there, but I still wasn't 100% sure. But anyways, man, how are you doing, dude? It's nice to have you on.
I've had an incredibly busy day. We were talking off the air, just really, 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 really busy day. Good day, creatively. Like this was my first official full-fledged back to work day. And it was cool. I ended up doing some work for a show I do for a company. Did that this morning. I ended up taking I live in Canmore, Alberta. It's really pretty out here. I always go out for kind of like a little afternoon stroll. And then I came back in and I did another show. I helped a friend out. And then I did some Tales in the Crypt prep work here because I was like, I better know what the heck I'm talking about in this episode.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit different, to say the least.
Yes. But I've been busy. Like when I'm done here, like when this show comes to an end, I go and do my show. I have a guest tonight too, so it's just like probably gonna go all the way till like midnight tonight and not even stop. So.
Oh wow! And I'm assuming that your show could probably be found at that link that you sent me.
Yeah, you can definitely find audio examples at the link at jpantalleresco.wordpress.com. I do have a Twitch stream,
which I sent that out to everybody as well.
Yeah. So that is where you can find everything really about me, what I'm doing, my books, everything like that. My latest release is Alice 1, which is why you see it in there. But I was like, okay, I get to do a Tales from the Crypt horror podcast. Okay, this ought to be fun. So that's why I'm here.
Right. See, I didn't realize that you were a Canadian guy because, like, honestly, I was just making a joke about it the other day to a different friend of mine that, man, I should make another show about Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which is honestly, and I know it's a little bit older, but probably one of my favorite Canadian productions.
Oh, there's no like little known secret about Canadians. We are some of the most like there. We have like these like hidden gems. The Kids from the Hall, Corner Gas is another really good one, and Are You Afraid of the Dark is also another really good little show. They just never
I'm a
had the
horror
budget.
fanatic.
What?
I'm a horror fanatic.
You're a horror fanatic. Oh, okay.
I
Well,
love Kids in the Hall, though. Don't get me wrong.
yeah. But I mean to say, like, we have a lot of these like little like niche shows that are really, really like they're cool quality shows, even though sometimes they're held back by budget and some other things a little bit sometimes. But
Right.
we have like these little gems every so often, and that is one of them. Are You Afraid of the Dark is one of those like gems.
Right. And we got Ron chiming in right here. I'm a ride or die for Trailer Park Boys.
Oh God.
Which I guess fits your low budget kind of thing you were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, very low budget. But hey, a hit's a hit, no matter what the ever that show is. Yeah.
I personally love Trailer Park Boys. It is a fun show, regardless of how anybody feels about it. That's for sure.
Oh,
Um,
you either really like it or you really hate it. It's not my thing. I'm big enough man to admit, but hey, if there's a reason it's successful. I'm not going to ever knock anyone for liking what they like.
Fair enough. It's funny because I think we were going to get into this at some point. Alice won a version of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
So,
kind of.
I would personally say yes, it is. And between the two, I I'm trying to like it's almost kind of hard to describe a lot of it because I went through and I actually went and um read both. And may I say first off, between Alice 1 and Alice 0, fucking great job, dude. I
Thank
was
you.
very entertained. I really enjoyed the process of everything. I I will say, without being too spoilery, because I want people to go and check these things out. I really like the mixture of mythologies
Mm-hmm.
in these, and because like I guess is that how you would say it at least?
Yeah, no. Do you want to hear a story actually of why I wrote it? Like the actual initial concept. I
Yeah,
was
let's hear it.
I was originally so I did a poetry series for a publisher called The Watcher Storm Dance and Wandering God. A friend of mine who's an editor, a poetry editor, really liked the style of that and
Oh,
requested I do a Lewis Carroll based poem, right, for her anthology. That would be eventually what became Alice Zero,
all
right?
right.
So I did it. It didn't fit
Is
the
that why
anthology.
it's so much shorter?
Yeah, that's why it's so much shorter. It was specifically initially designed to be an anthology, and for that
All right.
particular anthology, I didn't want it. You read it. Expanding that particular story would have been too drawn out. What I did was a really neat little thing. But what happened there was, so when I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to say about Lewis Carroll that hasn't already been said, right? How can I do that, right? That night I go to a bar. And I meet a girl with a Gorgon tattoo on her arm, like literally a Gorgon tattoo on her arm, like she made
Well,
herself.
that explains one thing.
Yes, it does. It does. Now, I have to admit, she was cute. She played for the other team, but she was cute. We're friends. We're actually still friends to this day. Like we're still really good friends. But I asked her, it's like, can I like model my Medusa? Like I had the idea of putting Medusa in Wonderland, and then I had this like eureka moment. Alice's Pandora. I had like once I had that eureka, everything just clicked. Like everything just clicked. Then what it was about then is, okay, how can I be faithful to Alice in Wonderland without like because like, that whimsy, that over the top, but also like give it its own my story its own flavor. Like yes, I am mixing mythology together, but I would like to think it's also very original in how I did it, and that was by design.
There's no arguing the originality behind it. I just
Yeah.
like I remember reading the first one there, and then I got to the second one, and I was like, "Huh?" It kind of caught me off guard the way it went because like that mixture of mythologies isn't quite as strong in the first, to say the least.
No, it's there, but it's very, very tiny. Because again, I only had when I initially wrote it, I only had so much space. But
Right,
some
right,
of it, but some of it was there. Like the Mad Hatter and Medusa were both like Medusa was in the first book too.
right.
But the Mad Hatter is also there's definitely a little bit of a Greek tie-in with him too. So I mean, it's
I saw
not.
that as well. Yeah, when I
Yeah,
first saw Medusa, my head's instantly like, "It's gonna be like the Clash of the Titans." Like, what's gonna be happening here?
yeah.
But
Honestly, writing this series, Medusa has become kind of my like. She's an interesting study from just a literature standpoint. But
oh, I bet.
thanks to Medusa, I have the whole direction for the series kind of put out because I think uh, Medusa if you really sit there and look at her in Greek mythology, she's very much a victim. Like she's very, very, very much a victim. And I thought about that. It's like if I were to retell that story again, Medusa specifically, I'm not going to give away anything. How would I change it? I changed one thing about it, just one thing, and I came up with and that's the basis, honestly, of the whole Alice journey. So that's all I'm going to say because if I say anything else, I'll spoil the whole series, not just
No, and there's no need to. And
it,
I strongly suggest people go check that out. And that's available on the website as well. Correct?
yeah, yeah. You can go find it on the website. I'm on it. It's on Amazon. You want to look up Alice 1 on Amazon, you will find it there too. It's a cover of Alice and the staring down Jason of the Argonauts and playing croquet. Promise you, it's not what you think.
No, it's really not. Like, just from my first time just looking at it and then reading it and everything, I was pleasantly surprised. And I will say I did enjoy the second one a bit more. I will
That's
say
fine.
that,
No, it's
but then
good.
again, it's longer. There's more to it. It's expected.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. If I don't make a better, this is just my theory. If I don't make a better story the second time around, right, or at least serve a purpose, it's on par, right? What am
Right.
I doing? Right? I want to make
Fair
everyone
enough.
better. Yeah.
Right. Always have to be showing some kind of improvement. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, good job, dude, for sure.
No, thank you.
I'm excited for that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, go check out his website. It's going to be in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast. It's all over the place if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. It's shared on everything already. Check it out. Go check out his books. I don't think they're even that expensive on there.
No, you can for $5 you can get both. They're just ebooks for the
$5
time
for
being.
$2, like,
Yeah.
can't beat that.
Hey, do you want me to give you a bit of an exclusive? Something I've quietly said, but I haven't openly said. When the
Sure.
physical book comes out in the summer, I'm going to be kickstarting it with a board game. I kind of accidentally invented a board game with this
Ooh,
series.
I'm excited for that. Ooh, I love board games.
Well,
My
I'm going to
family
tell you
hates.
something. Like the structure of the story, without spoiling too much, Alice is chasing the queen in Alice 1. That structure very much informs the board game. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's awesome. I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, how's it going, man?
Yeah.
Nice for you to come on here, dude, for
Yeah.
sure. So, I guess, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and transition this over a little bit. And hey, Jason, I'm starting to get more people jumping in and out and everything. Obviously doing these live. I don't know if your show's live, but you get. It can be fun.
Oh no! It definitely adds a layer to it for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, anyways, transitioning it over, we were able to get a little bit into some tales from the crypt. So, considering this is the first time I've had you on, I do want to ask you, and looking at you, you're probably close to my age, so this question should have a pretty fun answer. Do you have what got you into Tales from the Crypt?
The Crypt Keeper.
The Crypt Keeper?
Yeah. I remember there was this I don't know if you remember this. There was an ABC Saturday morning cartoon called Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Now,
I got all 3 seasons.
yeah. Now, obviously, folks, that is a much tamer version than this show for obvious reasons.
Much tamer.
Yes. However, I will say that I always okay. So for me, like I said to him, it's not my full-fledged cup of tea. However, I always respected the mythology, and I could appreciate that. The thing about Tales from the Crypt is it never pretends to be something it's not. It is exactly what it presents itself to be, no more, no less. It is a horror show, a horror anthology show specifically, with a bit of with a dark humor. And that's it. And the Crypt Keeper was always there. Like no matter how gruesome it gets, You always got the Crypt Keeper at the end and the beginning to kind of remind you. It's like, you know what? Life goes on, and here's a really terrible pun just for you.
Oh yeah, it's some of them can be pretty bad. I know this one. It starts off with the fisheye lens with him pulling the eye off of the fish and putting it right on the lens of the camera, which is pretty fun. But yeah, you're definitely right about the puns and everything for sure. I guess me personally being such a big fan, like I instantly always go back to the original stories and the comic books, which after we get done talking about the episode, we usually go through and do a comic book difference, which is pretty fun, where you actually get to
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you the differences between what happened in the TV show compared to what happens in the 1950s comic book source material.
Well, see, thing is, I says EC, was it the old school EC
Oh
comics?
yes.
Oh,
Oh
the
yes.
good stuff. The good stuff.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yes. Yeah. No, the
The
good
stuff they
stuff.
made court cases over.
What funny, I think today, I'm gonna. Oh, we'll talk about that after. We gotta get to the episode at some point.
Right. So, anyways, just so people know, this episode was directed by Gary Fletter, and the writing credits go to Stephen Dodd and Scott Rosenberg. We got Roger Daltrey, Steve Buscemi, Paul Dooley, Marshall Bell, Lindsay, or sorry, Lizette Anthony, who plays Bobby, John Cassier, and a few others, including he did not have a very big role in this. He played Salucci, but Titus Welliver, which my wife got me pretty big into that Deadwood show. That's what he's on or was on that I could actually remember. But a pretty decent fucking cast considering what this is for sure.
Oh yeah, no, this is. I was actually blown away by what I saw in there. It's like, holy crap! Right, they're all
Yeah.
pretty well known. They're all pretty well known. Now, I'll admit this off the air. I thought this episode was earlier than what he pointed out to me, or else I would like. It's even more impressive when you like a Daisy episode.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it's way more impressive. I thought it was earlier because especially Steve, he looks a lot younger, right? So it was just like,
At certain parts.
yeah, yeah. But but again, it was just like, wow, this. I thought it was right before he became. Nope, I was wrong. That was right in the
Right.
middle of his big run.
Right, and you are correct there.
Yes, you are.
Anyways, this episode, I guess, too, doesn't really. There's not too much to these episodes, especially the ones that have more of like because with Tales from the Crypt, you kind of like fall into a couple of categories. You got like your creature kind of ones where there's like some kind of a monster. You got your ones where it's a little bit more just like pure horror. There's some like just murder, violence type things, and then this one right here, which is don't get me wrong, has a little bit of murder in it, but it's what I would call like one more of their like love triangle episodes, where that's like more of the basis of the story, which it is a huge chunk of the story. But in this episode, we got two photographers. We got oh god, is it Dalton and Ike?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Ike's an up and comer, Steve Buscemi's character. Roger Daltrey is Dalton. And they're just coming back from a tour. I believe it was in Iraq. This is the first one. And they're trying to figure out, like what they're going to be doing. They're talking about like what's going to be happening once they get home. Ike's sitting there inviting him over to have a good dinner with him and his wife, and Roger's just trying to pretty much have a second chance at kind of like revitalizing his career as a photographer and trying to just make a bigger name for himself than he has been as of late. Now, with that being said, they come back. His pictures kind of suck, and Ike is actually doing a really good job and is getting noticed quite a bit. So then he ends up getting this other job because of this connection he has to go to, I believe it was Central America. So the only catch is that his boss made him take Ike as well. And, you could tell that he kind of pissed him off. So he ends up going over there, and that's when he realizes that his friend, or I guess not his friend, but his coworker Ike, has a pretty good looking wife, Bobby. And he's kind of smitten over her a little bit, and he's able to dance with her and gets caught even watching them have sex in a very creepy manner. And then they have a little bit of an interaction after Ike goes to bed, where they can tell they're smoking a doobie. And she pretty much calls him out on everything, which is pretty ballsy, especially for the 90s, but pretty fun thing for it to to happen on there. And from there, Ike and Dalton end up going to Central America. And on the plane, when Ike is asleep, one of Dalton's old friends is kind of actually on this trip as well, and tells him about this place where he can see some pretty horrific things, and lets him know it's a contaminated area, and the bodies are pretty bad there. So once he gets there, um, you're not really sure either. Like, to me personally, he was putting on a show from the get go, but he could have been serious and then maybe thought about it afterwards and thought like, well, maybe this is a bad idea, and then send Ike on it. But anyways, he goes to go on this trip once they land, and he was going to send Ike with the actual gorilla troop that was there to actually like go see what was going on elsewhere. Why he went and got the pictures, but he ends up coming back and sending Ike there, saying, you might get the other pictures, and he doesn't tell him that's contaminated or anything. So that's kind of what makes me think that it might have been more of like a ploy and him just playing along the entire time. But after they end up coming back, Ike's already back in the tent, and everything seems fine. And you can tell it kind of pisses Dalton off even more. Like, how the hell did this happen? They go to bed, and sometime throughout the night, Ike ends up waking up screaming. Dalton's freaking out. Ike's literally falling apart. He starts getting really sick, throwing up blood. His face is getting all yellow. You see his eyeball falling right out of his fucking head. It gets disgusting and gross right away. There ends up getting one of the guys comes up to the tent trying to figure out what's going on. Dalton says he's handling it and everything, not letting the guy in. So it kind of closes off that scene right there till the next day, where they're sitting out over by the campfire. Well, not really by the campfire, but they're just talking because it's morning time at this point. And from there, um, obviously, you get the point that like Ike's pretty much gone almost, except he's really not. He ends up walking back out, and he's pretty deformed at this point. He's kind of like melted. You can't even really tell who he is anymore. I mean, a lot of these episodes, I'm not sure if you know this, another Canadian guy, um, Todd Masters was the ones who was doing a lot of the practical effects for the actual episodes. Kevin Yeager only did the special effects for the Crypt Keeper segments, but Todd Masters is a master in his own right. Dude is an amazing special effects artist, and his team works really good on this show. Great guy too. But anyways, they end up killing Ike. Well, when I say they, Dalton ends up shooting him. And while that's going on, what is his name? Salucci is kind of like giving shit the entire time about it. Um, so after this happens, they end up going back, and we get this scene of Dalton kind of, he gets this award. He's being talked to by his boss, and telling him about how good of a job he did. And from there, to pretty much like what a shame about Ike type thing. And then he gives flowers to Bobby. Bobby kind of lets him know that Salucci went and sent him a letter, or sent her a letter stating about what he said happened. And she goes, basically like, I didn't believe him. So they end up kind of like smoking another doobie right from there, and then making out and ending up in the bedroom. From there, Bobby confronts again, and it's a little bit different of a confrontation this time. She lets him pretty much know that he believed it, that Ike sent her some herbs, which is what they smoked, which were from that contaminated village, and that they both had it now. And she starts having like these veiny things start going like up and through her, under her skin, through her back, popping through, blood's going everywhere. I will say she looked like she was in a lot less pain than Steve Buscemi did. Ike did in his character. Bobby was a very tough woman. You got to give her props on that. And well, after just getting blood all over him and pretty much contaminating him, he's freaking out, pushes her off over to the bed, goes over to the kitchen or bathroom sink. He's washing off and everything. And going back to one of their stories that they were having when they were, with the army guys talking about the one guy's nose being eaten off, his nose falls right off. And the episode ends there. And then from there, we get to our Crypt Keeper segment where he's taking pictures of this beautiful woman in a bikini, having her move her head until it falls just right off, and talks about it being perfect. And that kind of ends the episode there, which is a pretty entertaining episode.
Are you a Sandman guy? Just like Neil Gaiman's Sandman?
Not personally.
Okay. This episode kind of reminded me of one of Neil Gaiman wrote a story called Calliope, which is about an author looking for his muse. And I look at Dalton, like Dalton was looking for his muse. He was desperate and he was looking for a way to change his fortunes. And the way I read the episode was Dalton was jealous of his like just jealous because he had everything. He had the hot wife. He had the hot wife. He had the rising career. Everybody knew who he was, and everybody knew he was becoming something big and special and wondrous.
While he was just going downward and downward.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big. He's looking for a way to reverse his fortunes. The other thing that should be mentioned though is to Bobby and Dalton. There was an attraction there. It wasn't completely. It was. She recognized it, walked away from it, right? And it's
She said that he was an attractive guy.
Yeah, no,
but she left it at that.
Yeah, but again, when they dance, you could kind of see the way they were interacting. It's like, okay, there's an attraction there, but Dalton again looked at everything I had. Where I'm going to disagree with you is this: I think Dalton initially intended to go into the infested area, not as a play, but it was like one of those situations like. He was going to go, and then he realized something. Wait a minute. I can have everything. Absolutely everything I want. I can have the girl, I can have the hot wife, I can have everything. All I got to do is switch places make him switch places. Photographers are naturally a little crazy, and they are because they're looking for that perfect shot. Right. And for Ike, the other thing about Ike that should be also mentioned, he had a gift of making the grotesque beautiful. That was his talent as a photographer.
Right. Well, that's what Bobby said about it.
Yeah. Yes. I'm just going based on the information on the episode. Right.
Right.
So he would be drawn to something like that anyway. So I mean, who's to say that if it was just Ike there, Ike may have suffered a similar fate. Possibly, maybe not. Who knows? That may have helped him sooner. We'll never know. What is important, though, is Dalton was like, I could make, like, he was about to go. He was like, I can make this, totally turn this around by just switching places with him. That's what he did. And I think one of the, like, cool director choices, like visual choices, when he comes back and he's got the photos for Ike's photos on top, he took everything from Ike, his photos, his girl, everything.
Pretty much took his life.
Yeah. But here's the part I really dug. The how Dalton looked before and how he looked after. He was all suited up. He looked like the devil, and like he looked like $1 million, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, I actually thought that was a very nice little touch because I again the whole thing was Dalton was desperate to resurrect his career, but he was jealous because he wasn't going to have the career that his student. He was jealous, and the whole thing was
jealous.
Yeah, and the whole thing could have been prevented if he didn't give in, but he gave in to his jealousy. And
well, I mean, on top of that, though, you gotta also keep in mind that a lot of it could have been prevented if he didn't have to take him with him every single time because he was such a failure at the time.
There's definitely There's definitely a resentment there, but again, there's also just all bullshit aside. Oh wait, I didn't ask if I could swear, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you can.
yeah, okay. All bullshit. All bullshit aside, when you're around someone that's really talented, when you're around someone that's very talented, you know it. You just know it, right? There's no like when you see
No,
it in
you're right.
action, it's right. He knew Ike was talented. What he resented was that Ike was his babysitter. In fact, the only thing I will knock Ike on the whole episode, right? Those shots are so good, you can even get them. He actually said that to Dalton. It was like, ooh, that was a dig. That was
Oh
a
yeah. But
right.
you could also tell how obsessive he was with him too, like
Oh,
going on
sure.
about his entire body of work. I mean, the dude is, you could tell, was definitely into it.
Yeah.
There's no arguing that. Um, like I said earlier too, like when I was talking about it, like I'm not sure which. Like I personally still kind of lean a little bit more on this might have been his plan the whole time. But then again, I tend to see the worst in people at times. Um, so there's a lot of things where people are just incredibly shitty,
Hmm.
and it I can see it both ways. There's no arguing that whatsoever. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it to begin with.
Yeah.
But um, I don't know. There's something about it where I could just, because like he's talking about it being contaminated and everything with that one guy. He's getting all weird about it, and then he obviously has time in between, and
Hmm.
it makes you wonder, like he could have just sat there, had everything be a total act the entire time.
I, I, here's the thing. I don't think it was an entire act. Okay, here's the. It takes guts to be a scumbag. It actually does it takes a certain degree of I am going to cut my principles or all that shit to be that takes a that's a decision. But this is the thing. He had for Dalton to do that, he had to acknowledge two things. He was never going to be a good photographer again. That was a big part of what that was. The other part of that though, um, I do think I have this tendency to think that he was warring with what he really wanted. He wanted his career back, but what price was he going to pay to get it? The fact that he didn't tell Ike when he finally made the decision the way he did, that was his damnation point. Because if he had told Ike, and Ike had still just said, "Okay, I'll still go," different. It's a completely different thing now, right? It is an
Right.
absolutely different thing, right? But because he didn't, right? He made a choice there. He wanted two things. He wanted to get his career back. Became I want everything this kid has. Somewhere in this episode, that decision changed. So the argument is, when was this? The moment. So you're thinking it was before he decided to make the move. I think it was that moment of desperation and fear. It's like, I'm gonna do this. What the
Right.
what the
Don't get me
hell am
wrong,
I
I
doing?
think it was that moment of desperation and fear, but I think that desperation and fear came when he was talking to his buddy, and he
Mm-hmm.
said that, what was his exact words? It's easy to get there, but you
Mm-hmm.
won't leave.
Mm-hmm.
So right from there, he knew like that, like if it was his career he wanted back, he couldn't have just went there and done it because he knew he would die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes me think from the get go, like right there is where he was trying to figure out how can I make Ike do this and get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
But
I tend to think it was the moment he made the step to do it, because I think when someone says something to you, sometimes when someone says something to you, it doesn't register until you're actually going along the path. And the moment that happens, it's like, oh, what am I doing? I think it was yeah. I mean,
it's
there's
one of
that,
those things you'll never really know because like going
but
into the comic book, it's different.
yeah, but I will say this to your point. Dalton was acknowledged by those troops as he was a bit of a scumbag, and also,
Oh
in
yeah.
all fairness, look that creepy staring, creepy walking in while his buddy's making love to his wife, just to get a little peek at her. That's a bit like messed up. Like there are he was definitely a scumbag before,
Oh yeah. There's
right?
no arguing. The dude's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So I mean, to your point, it's possible. I just don't. I just think it was him. It's one thing to be a scumbag. It's another thing to be a murderer. He became a murderer the
Right. Well,
moment.
when you that moment where he saw him back though, and he said Dalton, he kind of got left with very few choices there because say Ike would have been able to say more, he could have told on him.
Oh yeah, but I mean, but Ike was dead anyway. At that point, really, what that was
Right.
like the bullets at that point almost didn't matter. Ike was dead. He was not. He was not going away, coming back. It's
No.
actually a small miracle that Dalton wasn't infected then, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. But anyways,
yeah,
let me go ahead and tell you some of the differences between this and the comic
sure.
book. So the comic book for forever, they call it Ambergris in the title when they're actually talking about this. I was always kind of confused about the that word in general. Is it Ambergris? Is it Ambergris? I've heard it different ways.
Ambergris what they said in the episode. So
That yeah, that's what but it's just one of those things where it's just like I've heard it so many ways throughout my life. But anyways, with this episode, and I guess with ambergris and everything, when you hear the word, you kind of think of one thing, at least me personally, and that is whale vomit. And the original title actually goes with that a little bit more. So instead of these being a couple of guys that are photographers for the, going in for like the press for, with army runs, these are actually two naval personnel. And it's entirely different. The guy ends up meeting the girl's wife and stuff, and they do have a connection and they are in love. But the girl is with the other guy for the money.
mm,
So, yeah, and so it's more of like a money kind of thing there. And it's funny talking about the money too, because the one guy who gets like super wealthy has like $600,000, which in
back then was a lot.
1950 you go,
That's a
yeah,
lot of money.
big time money. But anyways, what ends up happening in this one that makes because I'm not going to tell you every little thing. There's no point in going through the same story twice. We are going to go through the differences. So, we have that big difference there. And then one of the other differences is like how this infection kind of happens. So, the one guy on the boat is pretty much just like, hey, we got one more stop to make before we're going to go back to port, go back home. I told my friends at this island we need to drop off a couple gallons or barrels of gas for them, and we can go. So he goes ahead, has his buddy go and drop these barrels off, and doesn't tell him, but this entire island is actually infected with the Black Plague. So, which I guess was still a real problem back then. So, after coming back on the boat, he ends up getting really sick and is basically getting like to the point where it's like, he's almost looking like a zombie. And they throw him overboard. Now, when they throw him overboard, there's this whale that has been following their boat and been eating all the garbage that they've been throwing overboard and ends up eating this corpse, which causes the whale to throw up. And he gets all excited because, obviously the ambergris. So he ends up giving everybody $100 to go down there and actually collect all of this. He goes back. He's all excited about all the money he's made. Now he has all the money. He's got this girl, and he gives her a bottle of perfume, which she sprays on herself and ends up getting infected and goes into like a zombie like state herself and gets all like 1950s comic book zombie like for you. But it's those are basically the main differences with the entire story. He doesn't actually get infected, she does. He realizes it right away, tries to stop her before she sprays it on her. But it's but then again, they're actually in love, so it's a little bit different. So you're not getting both deaths at the end.
Well, and like it's actually the thing is the wife. I mean, in the show, she's a little nuts. I mean, seriously, she was willing to infect herself to kill this man,
Right.
right?
Well, she was
And
in love with Ike. She
yeah.
was, what she say? She worships him.
Mhm.
So it's to be expected with something like that. Yeah.
Whereas in the comic, what you're talking about here, right? the two naval officers weren't necessarily scumbags, whereas Dalton legit in this story
Well, the
legitimately.
one kind of is, definitely kind
He's
of trying
well.
to steal the dude's wife.
Well. But who's the bad guy there? The wife or him? The
Well,
wife's there because of the money.
you gotta put a little bit of blame with both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I mean, you can make the argument in the comic that the right people got their just desserts. In the show, Ike was relatively innocent. He just happened to be make a scumbag jealous of him. I mean, that's what it came right down to. Like he
I
didn't
wouldn't even
deserve
say
it.
relatively innocent. I would say full blown as innocent.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, you're completely right with that for sure, dude. I will say that the actual title of this episode being Forever Ambergris would be significantly more fitting with the comic book, though.
Yes,
you
yes.
know,
No,
I
no, absolutely, absolutely.
I can see the connections they made, but they turned perfume into weed, basically, which is they both have an aroma, but
well, again, it was just television's a different medium too, right? The other thing I
oh
think
yeah,
that should be mentioned here is, um, you like a naval island doing all that stuff is like, especially with the boats, the scenes like that. I can only imagine, considering the budget of the show, that probably wasn't in the cards. So they took the parts of it that they thought were interesting, the love triangle part, and they changed it up a little bit. But it's essentially that, like, they kept the beats of the story the same, but they changed it up so that they could do it.
all
And
right,
I
which is
think
understandable.
yeah, yeah, and that's television for you. Like, television is expensive to make. Insurance is, wow. If you ever done anything behind the scenes, you'll know that I'm talking about,
Oh
folks. If you don't, trust me, insurance will make you go, and that's just per day, right? So
yeah. Right. Sean, that's actually discussed at the beginning of the episode, dude. Hit me up on Messenger though, and I will fill you in a little bit.
mhm.
Sorry about that. But anyways, that basically kind of covers our discussion of this episode. One fun fact I will say about this is that now, as you can see, there is a DVD release of all these. Um, Before there was a DVD release of these, though, there was a VHS release. Um,
Ooh.
there is a difference on the VHS compared to the DVD for this specific episode, though. In the VHS version, the eyeball scene coming out of Ike is actually censored.
Huh.
Yes, so just a weird fun fact I thought I'd share with you, but it's something that you just really don't expect when you're going into some of these. That's for sure.
It's
Especially
I definitely could see it. It is. I mean, it is like I will, like,
it's
kudos
very
again.
gruesome.
Yeah, it's one of the more gruesome parts of the whole episode, right?
Right. It's weird to think about this being a TV show in the early 90s and seeing that.
Hmm.
Nowadays or whatever, especially after stuff like Game of Thrones, I mean, you kind of get desensitized to a lot of the shit that's been out. But if you put yourself back in the mindset of early 90s, for instance, for me, I was 5 years old. Like, that shit wasn't shown on TV like that very much.
Well, I would go so far to say Game of Thrones. The reason why you're so desensitized to it because it happens all the time. Tales of the Crypt,
Um,
they pick their spots. Like, you do expect horror from Tales of the Crypt, but it's not always a gore fest. You get a different flavor, for lack of a better term, every
oh,
time
yeah.
you watch an episode. Whereas Game of Thrones, there was a certain, like, just the nature of the show. It just was like, you're just gonna see just different,
Oh, yeah.
different things, and so
Right. Anyways, that's basically all we really got to say about this episode and everything. I think personally, we usually go through and give this a rating, by the way. I should have probably told you that. But
mhm.
me personally, I really enjoyed this episode. I think overall they did a really good job with everything. This is one of those where I would actually say that this doesn't happen very often for me, but I would actually say the TV show definitely outweighs the comic book in this one. It definitely has more of an entertaining factor to it. And the discussion afterwards I thought was really good about, Dalton in general and his personality. Me, as far as this episode goes, I'd probably give it like out of 10, probably about 7 out of 10. It's not the best Tales from the Crypt episode I've ever seen. Obviously, I'm a very big fan of Lower Births, but it's still a really fun one. The gore's there, the horror's there, the little twist is there. I mean, everything that makes Tales from the Crypt is in this episode in some sense.
I will go a little higher. I will say 8 out of 10. Although I agree with you, it's not the best episode of Tales from the Crypt ever. What it does do, I just like a lot of the little things that are
Right.
in this episode that tell the story. They're well done. All of it is incredibly well done, and that's a kudos to the actors, everybody involved in production. They knew the story they were telling, and they knew how to and they emphasized everything they needed to. Dalton was a scumbag. Ike was likable, someone you could root for, right? Bobby was, she was interesting, like she was hot, but she's also a little crazy. And I say but also worshipped her, loved her husband, and you got that. You got a sense of who all the characters were, what they did, what their motivations were, why they did what they did, and it's a good
Oh yeah.
story, right? It's just a really, really, really good story, and always, and also just extra point for me, just simply because of the headshot at the very end was actually kind of funny. I actually chuckled a little bit when I got
Oh
to that.
yeah. I love that too.
Yeah.
We had Chrissy Jamin. I'm a big fan of Tales from the Crypt. Oh God, I am a huge fan. If you can't tell from behind me,
I,
um,
can I ask something real quick? I'm
yes,
curious about this. They look like cans. The Tales
I
from the Crypt.
have the official Tales from the Crypt beer.
Wow. Okay, I was wondering if that was like,
Yes, that is what it is.
yeah, yeah. I was
It is
wondering
an
about
official
that.
thing. You cannot get it in this area. And,
No, no. I get. I'm just curious. Did you have have you tried one?
no, I paid a lot of money to get that to
No, no,
me.
no. I know. I just wondered
Yeah.
the obviously I wouldn't touch those, but I'm almost like there'd be almost like one of those things where just like I wouldn't be able to help myself. I
I
tried one.
want to get another one,
Yeah.
but it's just like because like they only sell them in California. It's illegal to ship alcohol, so you got to find somebody to ship it again and hopefully not get caught. And when you so like with the original purchase, which is close to like 25 bucks, with the original purchase and the original shipping and then the other shipping, I mean, you end up paying close to like 75, 80 bucks, a little bit more just to get a 4 pack of beer.
Yeah, it's no, I understand. I just looked at that. It's just like, is that really big? Like, is
That's
that like
yes. That is
yeah? It was
100% the
yeah. It
yeah,
was. I was look.
I
I
wasn't
looked.
joking, I'm a fan.
No, dude.
Yeah.
I can totally respect obsession. I like that, like, and passion, right? So there you go, folks. That is amazing.
Yes, yes. It's called the Pale from the Crypt beer. Liquid Gravity Brewing Company puts them out. Um, Out of California, like I said. If you're in that area and you're a fan of the show and you feel like you want to help me get another 4 pack so we can try them on air, reach
That'd
out to
be,
me.
that'd be ladies and gentlemen. I just want to try the beer now. At least put that thought in my head, but that's okay. No,
Right.
no, dude. I have to admit, like, I totally respect passion. I totally do. Like, if I can ask one last question before we kind of wrap it. I know we're going to
Oh
probably get
yeah,
to my
yeah,
wrap.
definitely.
Yeah. So, what was it about Tales in the Crypt that drew you to it? I'm just like, because you're a
Oh,
horror guy,
you're gonna
obviously.
steal my question. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, no.
Well, this is for me personally. It wasn't the first horror thing I watched. I've admitted that on TV on here before, and that is Ernest Scared Stupid. Um,
Oh,
but
okay. I
uh,
remember. I remember
yeah,
that movie. Oh
keep in
my
mind
god.
I was born in '88, but by the time I was about 4 or 5 years old, my dad had one of these things, and I don't know about Canada if they had them there, but in America there were these things that you could get. It was like a black box, and it could descramblize certain
Oh yeah,
TV stations
we
back in
had
the
those
day.
too. Oh yes. Oh, I remember. I remember that era well. Yes.
Right. And I didn't grow up with a lot of money and like things were tough growing up. So like, there was a lot of times growing up where my bedroom would have been the living room and things like that. And I'm talking pretty young too, but the TV would be on, and you would hear this cackling that John Kassir would do, and it would scare the fucking shit out of you, especially at that young of an age. And I don't really know what I could say about it, but like I've always been obsessed with the darker things, and I grew to love the character of the Crypt Keeper. I grew to love that intro when when the wall slides open and they're going down the staircase, and you see in the not you don't really see the fire, but you see the glow coming out of the mouths on the statues that are the pillars of the staircase going down, and then you see the Crypt Keeper just pop up out of the coffin. That scared the shit out of me growing up. And some of the stories, like some of the first ones I ever watched were things like Fitting Punishments. And like with Fitting Punishment, like that's the episode where the guy, the little boy, his family dies and he goes to live with his uncle who runs a funeral home. He's super fucking mean, beats the boy and everything, ends up killing him. Um, Gets him into a coffin that's so small for him, so he breaks his legs to make him fit into the coffin. And I mean, it's just such a gory, gross episode. And I mean, that episode alone is something where I remember watching that when I was like I said, like 5 or 6, and I've just been obsessed with it ever since. Something about the gore, the nastiness of it. And my dad was always, pretty honest about stuff. He let me watch whatever I wanted to. He was very anti-censorship. My dad's a professional musician, to say the least. So if you know anybody in that kind of thing or whatever, they're very usually
Oh yeah.
anti-censorship. But I mean, it just was one of those things where it's like, hey, just so you know, it's not real, and he would let me watch whatever I wanted to. So I just got hooked on this, and then from there, the cartoon. I don't know if you remember the game show. I got into the game show because, like, at the time, I'd watch like things like Legends of the Hidden Temple, but then they had the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House, and that was so much cooler for somebody who was such a fan of horror at the time. And I just absolutely adored it. Like my favorite video games were stuff like Zombies Ate My Neighbors for Sega Genesis.
I
That's
remember that
just
game. I remember
that
that
was
game.
just the stuff I was into. I
That's really
loved it.
cool.
But yeah, that's what helped get me started with Tales from the Crypt. And we got a co-host of my other show here, Chuck Daniels.
Hey Chuck, how you doing?
Hey, he says it's a great opening. And talking about that. Like, that's a good one. And next on Intervention, JB has an addiction to sick shit. Oh man, you're just like me, so don't worry
No,
about that.
it's okay. We all like our things.
Right.
I'm a giant comic book nerd. I've been one for my whole life. I obsess over some things. I used to be real like my obsession as a kid was professional wrestling. When I got older, it evolved into like Green Lantern comics and like other things. And now I'm just a giant kid at like 40. That's just where I'm at.
I
So
I fully understand. We got Sean Smith, and I I just learned the original Chucky doll was stripped down, and the eyes were used for the Crypt Keeper.
mhm.
Yeah, the eyes were very similar. They were the same ones that were used in the actual Chucky doll. One of the cool things I was like, you can actually buy a lot of these things too. So, like, just so Sean knows, the guy who actually worked on the Crypt Keeper segments and Chucky with the practical effects was Kevin Yeager, the same guy. I mean, if you go to Yeager Studios and you go to their shopping little area there, there's a lot of these props that you can actually buy and the animatronics, including things like the baby Crypt Keeper doll from Lower Birth is on there. If anybody ever wants to buy it for me, it's greatly appreciated. I'll give you my address. Um, but I
So
mean,
you should do like on your shows like things I really want like has little segment and you can just talk about like the history of something or even talk about like your stuff. Like honest to God, you have a very yeah you have an impressive collection just based on what I've seen so far. You have a very impressive collection. So
right. Yeah, since I moved the beer, you can actually see that the right next to the actual head there of the comic book Crypt Keeper is the entire set of Tales from the Crypt trading cards,
yes,
including some unopened packs of the Tales from the Crypt trading cards. I'm a fucking
No,
nerd.
no. Dude, I've seen. No, there's nothing, dude. We all have to.
I'm not upset about it.
Oh no, I don't think you're upset about it at all. I'm just like, all I'm saying to the audience is this, right? We all have things we love, and
yeah.
by all means, all the little joys in life, whatever they are for you, embrace them. And actually, kudos to JB for embracing his stuff. I mean, that it's cool, right? We all have different flavors of ice cream we like. That's what kind of makes life so wonderful to live.
Right. My flavor is just a little bit darker.
That's all. Yeah, that's all.
But anyways, man, yeah, definitely gonna wrap this up, dude. It's
Yeah.
been a great fucking time with you, man. Everybody, please go check out his website over at jpantalleresco.wordpress.com. Go check out his books. You get both of them for $5. Like, what kind of cheap ass doesn't have $5? Just go and get them. Help out Josh.
Yes. And by the way, I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret now. If you do buy the books now, when I do launch my Kickstarter later, let me know. I'll open a special little tier just for you guys. It'll be kind of cool. That's a promise. That's a promise. And it will be game related. I have mentioned this to here. If those have missed at the very beginning, my Kickstarter, it will probably be in the fall because my artist for the series is getting married this year, so I'm gonna let her get her marriage, wedding and stuff taken care of.
That's very nice of you to let her.
Yes, priorities in life. Like, her wedding is way more important than my shit. So when it's over, we're gonna talk about it a little bit and kind of see what that's gonna entail and take. And I'm already looking at some board game companies. I'll be doing some testing for the spring with my buddies, and come the summertime, like when I'm ready to do the physical trade, there is going to be a book board game combination. Anyone that gets the books now in some form or reviews the books now, if you guys come to me on the Kickstarter campaign, there will be a special tier just for you. Ooh. So,
well, I'm excited to see what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
So everybody, please go check him out. Check out his books. Like I said, you can get both of them for $5. Hell of a deal. Me personally, I prefer digital downloads. For somebody who drives all the time, especially for work, I can actually throw these in on an app and actually listen to them. And with any ebook, they have apps out there that'll read them for you, so you don't have to worry about anything. You can just sit there and listen to it, and then go back through, watch and actually look at the artwork. The artwork is actually really good. I will say I listened to these books before looking at the artwork. And I don't mean this in a negative way whatsoever, but the artwork was way more impressive than I anticipated it being.
That was the whole idea. First off, shout out to my artist. Her name is Kenzie Carr. Definitely check her out. She is one of my favorite, most enthusiastic people I've ever worked with. And honest to God, better than I deserve. And I mean, I'm not even like, there's no
state that in your book.
Yeah, like, yeah. No, and that's, I'm not, there's no knock. She's an amazing human being. If you met her, you would know it. I'm really happy she get, like, again, kudos to her. Her husband, they are an amazing pair. If you ever meet them, they deserve all success and happiness to both of them. But yeah, Kenzie's incredibly passionate. Like, what I'd hope to do, like, for everyone listening, check out my books. They will sneak up on you. That's the idea behind them. They sneak up and they will surprise you in the best possible ways. Much like this episode, actually. Kind of like it was well done. So thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me.
Anytime, man. And of course, I feel like we'll definitely have to do this again sometime, man.
Sure.
Definitely got we're just season 5. I got season 7, the TV show, 3 seasons of the cartoon to go through. I got plenty of time to get you on again. Yeah. And I'm sure you got, with your Kickstarter coming up, I mean, what a better time to do it.
Yeah. Well, then my very next project before then, I'm writing and drawing I'm drawing the book for the first time ever too. It's kind of scary, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's called Lights Out. It's my little homage to Ray Bradbury. You want to talk about another horror master, kind of, sort of. It is Mr. Ray Bradbury, so I'm a big fan of him. So
very cool, man. Well, it looks like we have 2 different times I'm going to be having to try to get
absolutely.
So, go ahead.
No, but I just say again, thanks very much again for having me. It was really a pleasure to hang out with you for an hour.
You were very welcome, man. It's been a great time. I'm very, very excited about everything you have going on. And Sean feels the same way. Awesome guest. Thank you, Josh, for being
Thanks,
on.
Sean. Thanks, Sean.
One of the things I want to go ahead and say before I wrap this up. So next week, everybody, for 2G1C, my other show, where we actually just discuss horror films. Me and Chuck are going to be honored to be having the privilege to sit down with our good friend Shanty. And we're changing things up a little bit on the show. And instead of doing one of our usual things where we go through and try to, outdo each other on like finding some of these older, crappy horror films from the 80s and some of the cheesy stuff, I kind of pulled this one out. This is a movie I actually watched recently, and I actually really adored it. And I'm really excited to talk about this movie. We might have to do a spoiler section on it because it's a little new. But we are going to be talking about the new Resident Evil.
Ooh.
So
I interviewed Chad Rooknight for our magazine, actually.
Oh yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Oh man, I really dug this movie. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, they did a really good job, especially for people who are fans of the actual game. Which if you're a fan of the game, then you know the Mila Jovovich Resident Evils are pretty much bullshit. So
they're just fun entertainment. That's all they are. They're not the game.
Right. You know, that's what I'm getting at. You know, this new one though, it's the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the fucking game, and they nailed it. They did a great job with it, and it's a fun one. So next week, check it out. We'll be talking about Resident Evil. We got some more fun things coming up in the future, though. Josh, man, once again, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say before I get us out of here?
Well, this is a little bright for this podcast, but everybody stay inspired. Have a good one, and come check me out sometime. Happily to introduce you. And JB, again, feel free to come on my show as well at some point in time.
Oh yeah, we will be talking about that very soon. So yes. So everyone, thank you so much for checking us out this episode. Josh, Sean, I'll talk to you here in a few minutes, man. And Josh, dude, again, such a fucking pleasure to have you on, man. I can't wait to do this again. It's fun times, man, for sure.
Oh, thanks, Rob.
So with that being said, the crypt is closed.
Thanks for listening, kiddies. You're all a scream.